Welcome to the Nerdstalgic podcast with your host, the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm. Nerdstalgic with the Ginger Bookworm.
Howdy beans, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Nerdstalgic podcast. I'm your host, Luke the Human. Hope you're doing well, hope you're good, as per usual. Before we get into today's topic, a bit of housekeeping. Make sure that you follow me on Twitter, well, formerly known as Twitter, now known as X, as Elon Musk wants us all to call it, but we will never call it that because it will always be Twitter in our hearts. Make sure you follow me out there at nerdstalgic_pod. Also, if you listen to this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe and all that jazz. It helps me out immensely. Also, if you are subscribed on YouTube, make sure that you ring that notification bell to be kept up to date on whenever I upload a new episode. So, today's topic, today's episode is going to be a review for a movie that I'm really, really excited to watch. I love the first film, and I just couldn't wait to get round to reviewing this one. I'll get more into all of that in a minute. But today's topic, we're going to be looking into Doctor Who, Daleks Invasion Earth, 2150 AD from 1966. The sequel to the movie to the review I did a week ago, which is Doctor Who and the Daleks. I'm just so excited for this one. I really, really am. More Peter Cushing, more Susan. I love it. So I'm really excited to get into this one. For anybody who doesn't know, this is going to be like a little mini series that I'm doing where I decided to look back at some of the older sort of Doctor Who movies. I was listening through Big Finish. If anybody doesn't know what Big Finish is a online production where they do a lot of audio dramas, mainly for Doctor Who, but they do other things like Blake 7 and stuff like that. And I was listening through them, and I got to the 8th Doctor, and I basically realised I haven't seen his movie, and I don't really want to listen to any more of his adventures than I have before I've watched that film. And that kind of sparked this thing of like, well, if I'm going to go back and watch that movie, then I should go back and even further and watch the Peter Cushing movies. Because I've never seen them, and they're very pulpy, and I've heard a lot of things about them in the Doctor Who community. So I figured I would go back and check them out. And it was a great idea because I watched the first one. It blew me away. I loved it. And I couldn't wait to watch the sequel. So that's what I'm doing here now. So if you're into Doctor Who, and if you're into classic Doctor Who, and you're into nerdy science fiction stuff, stick around because I've done a lot of Doctor Who stuff in the past. I'm currently going to do more Doctor Who stuff. And we're going to talk about more sci-fi stuff. So, if that's interests you, then this is the place to be. Also, again, make sure that you go back and you watch or even listen to my review of Doctor Who and the Daleks. Because as of recording this episode, I obviously I knew this anyway, but as of recording this episode, it came to mind that because I'm so excited to watch the sequel, and because I've got such a big build-up of other episodes that need to be out before I even get around to releasing these episodes, that the first episode isn't out yet. So as of recording it, I haven't released the first episode. But by the time that you're listening to this episode, obviously the first episode will be out. So you'll be able to go back and listen to Doctor Who and the Daleks. So that's out now. Check it out. I don't know if it's done well or not. I hope so. But again, if this is something that you're interested in, you want to know more about, these older movies and Peter Cushing, and you just love Doctor Who, and you haven't listened to the episode, please do go back and check that one out. I had a fantastic time with it. So as for this movie, so let's introduce the cast. So we have Peter Cushing returns in his role as the eccentric inventor and the time traveller Doctor Who. Roberta Tovey returns as Susan. You've got Jill Corzone as Lois. Is it Lois? Yeah, I think it's Lois. And Bernard Cribbins as Tom Campbell. In the sequel to Doctor Who and the Daleks from 1965. So you got returning actors from the first one. You got Peter Cushing and Susan, and we've got new companions from Peter Cushing, Bernard Cribbins and Jill Curzone as Lois. or Louise even. So that is your cast. Now I'm going to try and do my voiceover movie guy voice for the introduction, for the synopsis of the storyline. So here we go. Policeman Tom Campbell stumbles into the TARDIS on a normal day and ends up being taken to 2150 AD by Doctor Who. The future seems to be deserted, while the group soon finds that the world is currently being controlled by the evil Daleks. Those who have still survived are in hiding to prevent them from being turned into Robomen. Doctor Who teams up with the survivors in order to take down the Daleks. Dun dun dun. I'm getting better. I feel like I am getting better at the voiceover. It's a new thing that I'm doing. If you're new to the podcast, it's something that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do these voiceovers to make it, instead of doing the whole story, I'm just going to do like nice little short synopsis of them in like a voiceover guy voice. I think I'm getting better at them. I really do. But that's sort of an introduction to the storyline. As for the movie production, so production was complicated by the illness of Peter Cushing, which required some rewriting of the script to reduce his on-screen appearances. There were also a number of accidents on set. A Dalek prop caught fire during the filming of Rebel storming the Dalek spaceship. Stuntman Eddie Powell broke his ankle during the scene in which his character is killed by the Daleks while trying to escape from them. Actor Andrew Kerr hurt his wrist and then punching through a van window screen during a scene in which his character Wyler and Susan escape from London. The design and colour from the majority of the Dalek props were very similar to that used for the television versions of at the time, having large black bases and predominantly silver paintwork with grey shoulders, natural aluminium collars, and slats and blue hemispheres. 3 Dalek leaders are also shown, painted respectively in gold, black, and red. As with the first Dalek film, the props were fitted with larger dome lights than their TV counterparts, and some were equipped with a mechanical claw in places of the standard plunger. The film marks the first appearance of the Daleks using rails as a time measurement. This would be used in comics and later in the revived series. In January 1984, an article about the 2 Dalek films appeared in Doctor Who Monthly, containing production information, photographs, and interviews. Another article about the films appeared in 1995's Spring Special Edition of Doctor Who magazine. So a lot happened on the production, a lot of accidents. But I would imagine bigger sets, bigger budget. They shot a lot of this in London, so when you up the budget, you get a lot more practical effects. So it makes sense. But I'm really looking forward to this one. If you've listened to my first sort of go round with the Doctor Who and the Daleks, you just know how much I loved Peter Cushing. I thought he was incredible as the Doctor. That movie was fun. It was silly. It was it was long, but I was enthralled all the way through. So I just couldn't wait. Usually, what I tend to do in my reviews is that so I do a 1 movie review, I'll wait till that one's out, and then I will do the sequel or whatever's next. But I was just so excited because I wanted to watch this movie that I just couldn't wait. So I am, like Doctor Who, I'm jumping on ahead into the future, or in the past technically, and I'm checking it out here. And yeah, I just can't wait. So that has really been the introduction. I'm going to go off now and watch Doctor Who Daleks Invasion Earth, which should be Earth, but Doctor's Invasion Earth 2150 AD. More Peter Cushing goodness, more Susan. Bernard Cribbins, rest in peace, you wonderful soul. But I'm glad, I got to see him in again, partly. And I know he's coming back for the 60th anniversary. But it's been nice to see him when he was a younger chap as a police officer. Tom Campbell was his name character. So I'm really looking forward to that. So without further ado, let's get into some Doctor Who-y goodness, shall we? Right, so I've just finished watching the movie. It's not a very long film. It's around about the same as the first film, around about an hour and 20 or so minutes. It's not a very, very long movie. And to be honest, this movie is a lot bigger and more grand in scale than the first film. So, and because it's a lot quicker paced as well, you don't tend to notice how short it is, because so much is going on that you kind of get your money's worth of that, if you get what I'm trying to say. Like I said, this movie is bigger, more grand in scale and scope. As you would imagine, the world being like it's been invaded, and London has been destroyed, and now the Daleks rule the Earth. That's the premise. You know, that we're in the year 2050 and the Daleks have taken over. You see London, it's in ruins, it's destroyed, there is nothing left. Just kind of like, if you ever see, best way I can explain it, if you ever see pictures of the Blitz and the way London looked after the bombing raids, that is the best way I can explain it. That's how it looks when we first get to London, that it's been destroyed. There is only like a small band of people left, and they're all living and hiding out into the subway underground, and the Daleks have just taken over. And it's like I say, it's a lot more grander, a lot more bigger in scope than the first film. Like where the first film was a lot more slower and sort of introduced you to the Doctor, who the Doctor is, the whole idea of the TARDIS and who the Daleks are and who the Thrall are and the science, everything. This movie kind of just gets straight into the action, you know, with a lot of explosions and death and destruction, you know. Because again, you'd have to imagine that like the first Doctor Who movie, for people who might have not have seen the TV show, or for people who were fans, you know, you had to kind of how to explain it. You had to introduce the character, introduce the science of it all, and be a lot more sort of, we're going on an adventure, come along sort of thing, and this is the science, and this is how this works, this is how that works, and a lot of technical language. With this one, again, you've already had the TV show, you've already had the first movie. And this film only came out a year later after. So the first one was 1964. This one was 1965. So it was only a year later that this film came out. So I would imagine that sort of the idea of Doctor Who was still in sort of young people's minds at the time. Even if they hadn't watched the film, watched the show, at least the movie might still be in their heads. So there was no need for that grand of reintroducing everything. It was like, we already know who this person is, what's going on. Now we're in like 2150, Daleks are taking over, boom, the story moves on. And I like it for that. You know, I like the whole sort of big, huge, grand in scale. We go to a lot more different locations. You know, the set design is amazing, even for the 60s. Really, the set design is really, really good. They went all out for this one. Because like in the first movie, The Doctor and the Daleks, you're on Skaro. Now, they don't call it Skaro, but you're on Skaro, you're on an alien planet. We could just call it Planet X if you would like. And they drop into a petrified woods, and it's a lot of greens, and all the trees have been petrified, so you touch them, they just fall to ash. You know, everything is grand and groovy in 60s, and yeah, man, you know, it's very science fiction, especially when you first see the Daleks, and you see the Dalek base, and you see how the fowls are dressed and all. Everything just looks very sort of 60s. Then with this movie, again, it's more the Blitz. It's everything's destroyed. There is rubble everywhere. Buildings are half destroyed. There's kind of like, you could imagine they went to a demolition site and it was like, oh, can we shoot here? Because a lot of the buildings look like they've just been torn down, and probably did, you know. That's how good it looks. It all looks real. And there's big stunts, and there are big moments, and tons of explosions, a lot of death, a lot of killings. There's a lot of Daleks exterminating people point blank. Again, it's all fire extinguishers, so it's not like zappy zap or anything like that. But it is very much the fact, if you see, you know, people die, Daleks explosion. You know, I even noticed there was some Pinewood studio locations. And again, I'm a big fan of James Bond and those older sort of movies, and they ended up reusing a lot of lots and a lot of certain parts around the Pinewood studio buildings for shooting. You know, Doctor Who and Bond did it. And there is one big scene. I can't really explain it unless you've seen shots of Pinewood. But there is one scene that I was like, oh, that's Pinewood. I recognise that. You know, so it was little moments like that really sort of made me smile. The only real sort of nitpick that I have, and again, I understand it's probably because of budget. So I can't really sort of nitpick it so much. But even though the set design and the grandness and everything about it is a lot more bigger and epic in scale, the only thing that really sort of lets it down for me is the fact of in the storyline we're meant to be in the year 2150. Now, even the year 2023 that we're in now looks far futuristic and far more advanced than the 60s did. And that's because of architecture and better ways of designing things and that sort of thing. And again, it's that normal, you know, evolution. As you know, 1860 would look different to 1960. You know, there's always going to be that big sort of grand evolution of change and that sort of thing. But you would imagine that we're in the year 2150, that everything would, you know, be a lot more futuristic. You know, you would imagine that the buildings will look, I don't know, more metallic, more technologically based, more cyberpunky maybe. The cars, the vehicles would look very much sort of sleek and slim and very kind of the ideas of what this people in the 60s thought the 90s would be, or even the early 2000s. Because if you ever read, what I love about reading old science fiction novels is just how high hopes they had for the future. Because it's always like, oh, in the year 2003, humans are exploring deep space. And I'm like, you had such high hopes for us. But that's the kind of the point I'm trying to make is that whenever when we get to 2150, it doesn't look like 2150. It looks, if anything, they've gone back in time to the 1940s. Again, it does look like the Blitz. There's no hint of technology. Now, you could argue, say, again, me nitpicking, and me also trying to save it, you could just say, oh, maybe the Daleks destroyed the technology. They destroyed all the buildings, and that's why there's no technology that you see. And again, you can say that because we are at war and everything has been destroyed and the Darks have taken over. Yes, you can say that, but I just wish that there's a moment where Susan is with I think his name is actually I've got his name here. His name is Wyler. Susan's been saved by this character called Wyler, and they're going to escape to Watford to get away from the Daleks because the Daleks are going to blow up London. And you would think, oh, well, maybe like a futuristic car or something like that. No, they're getting an old, probably 50s, 60s Citroen van, and they drive away in that. And it's like, yeah, okay, for the time period of the 60s, of actually filming it in the 60s, okay, this makes sense. But you're in 2150. That car would be an antique now. That would be in a museum, that if it even still existed. You know what I mean? So they could have at least, because they did it even like not Patrick Troughton. Oh God, I really hate myself now. I forgot his name. I'm gonna have to Google it now. The Doctors. Oh, because I had it then and it's really gone out my brain and I feel really, really bad to admit that. The Doctor. That's it. John Pertwee. Even John Pertwee, which how can you forget him? I really embarrassed myself there. But even John Pertwee, because in John Pertwee's most of his seasons, he was trapped on Earth by the Time Lords. They said you're stuck on Earth. That's it. You can't leave, and they've given away his time traveling rights. So he ended up sort of inventing and a lot of his own things. And he had futuristic vehicles. He used to, not just Betsy, but he used to drive in like very suave futuristic vehicles and things like that. And again, that was the 70s to 1970 to 1974. But even so, like they had the bubble cars, they had the futuristic sort of vehicles as you would imagine sort of the Doctor would have. So they could have had like a chassis, and they could have at least built some sort of futuristic looking bubble car on top. And it's not entirely practical, but it goes, and it kind of just adds to the futuristic side of it. And that's the only sort of nitpicks that I've got. Like even the clothes that the people wear, they don't wear very futuristic clothes. They wear very, for the time period anyway, modern. And maybe even today you'd say quite modern clothes. But I just wish there was those extra bits of detail. Because then, I know it's a Doctor, and I know they was on a shoestring budget, and again, they probably spent a lot of their money on the big sets and the explosions, which again makes complete sense because there was a lot of big sets and there was a lot of explosions. I would just like those little bits of extra details in people's outfits. People look a bit more futuristic. Have the vehicles look a bit more futuristic. The buildings, maybe you can get away with that because they've been built blown up, so that's why they don't look futuristic. But just have things that look a bit more high tech. A bit more 2100s than 1960s. That's my only little bit of nitpick there. But even so, it didn't take it out of my enjoyment. It was just for a few moments I was questioning of like, oh, I just wish it was a bit more futuristic, a bit more high techy than low techy. You know what I mean? But that being said, it's all fantastic. As for the story, a lot of fun, really interesting because it's so fast paced. You're pulled into it straight away. You know, it lose, but because it's so fast paced, even though it's a fantastic and fun story, you do lose that ah those awe inspiring moments of like, oh wow, those moments you find that spectacle because like in the first movie you had those moments because when the Doctor, you first see the TARDIS, or when you first get to Skaro and you actually see the petrified forest and you see the Daleks for the first time and you see the Thorals, and it's like, this is amazing. You're given a moment to really take in everything and take in the colours and take in the wonderment of it all. You're allowed to really embrace it and be like, those moments of Doctor Who that we all like and enjoy. But this one, because there's a war on, there isn't time for that thing. Everything's been destroyed anyway, so there's nothing to look at. So that you don't get those moments. It's more just the fact of, okay, right to it. Okay, so we're in the year 2150. There's Daleks and there's Robomen, and that we need to run and we need to hide. And the Doctor has been split up. The Doctor is with Tom. Bernard Cribben's character, he's off there. Susan and Lois are in another place. They've all got split up and they've got different adventures going on. So it's very fast paced. Like, it's still interesting, it's still great, and the story's still spot on, and all that. And there's still a lot to it, but there are still those moments of this like, it would have been nice to just have those little quick moments, just to slow down, just to kind of take in the destruction, to really take in what the Daleks have done and how much they've destroyed. And again, I know it's for younger kids. I know it's that idea of like, maybe the idea was that the first movie was too slow, so that we've got to speed things up in the second film to kind of really keep kids' attention. It's really sort of hard to say, to be honest, but it's one of those where I understand it again for the setting. We're at war. We don't have the time for spectacle, so to say. Small little things that I noticed as well were that, one, they now call the Doctor, not Doctor Who. That was one of the things that kind of bothered me in the first movie, was that everybody goes Doctor Who, Doctor Who, apart from Susan, who calls him grandfather, but everybody else was like, that's a Doctor Who, that's Doctor Who. And yeah, I get it. That's here. That is his name, Doctor Who. He is, say, Simon Who, or Stephen Who, or something like that, right? But I liked here that they changed it. Instead of calling him Doctor, they just called him Doctor. You okay, Doctor? And I like it because for me, being an old fan as well, it's very much the fact of, that's what I know and that's what I like, and I don't like it being changed. Also, it just sits better, it just sounds better, especially when you're running down a corridor being chased by a Dalek. It sounds so much better to go Doctor than go Doctor Who. You ain't got the time, you're out of breath, you're running, you're being chased by a Cyberman, you ain't got time to shout the full name, just shout Doctor. That's enough. So it's just me nitpicking, but I just liked how they changed that. The Doctor also mentioned Skaro, which when he mentioned it, my ears peaked up and I got quite excited. He mentioned Skaro, which is the Dalek homeworld, which again is quite funny, even though that it isn't brought up in the film. So again, as I mentioned in the first film, that they do go to Skaro, or at least it's interpreted that it is Skaro, because they never actually call it Skaro. It's never mentioned this is what the planet is called. Just the fact of they've landed on a planet, and you've got the two warring species, the two warring factions, the Daleks versus the Thals. That's basically it in terms of all you really get in terms of what's going on here, and that there was a war. You don't get a name, you don't get anything like that. It's just the events and the story sort of moves on. So I like again how he mentions like to Tom is like, yeah, the Daleks, I know them. I saw them destroyed in Skaro. And he has that moment of like, unless that was in the future that I destroyed them, or the past, but it couldn't have been in the past because I destroyed them. So it must be from the future. And you have that Doctor Who sort of moment of where the Doctor sits there and really sort of tries to figure things out. Because again, the Doctor is a genius. His mind's always going. He's always trying to think of what's going on, what's happening, like what is like why is this new alien race or this new creature or the Daleks coming, whatever, what are they doing here, how can I stop them? So you can tell those moments of breaking through. But I just loved how we mentioned Skaro, because it just made my sort of old sort of, well, not old but young being sort of Doctor Who loving heart. It just made it sort of like flutter. I was like, oh, you mentioned Skaro, I love it. Also, another thing I want to mention is that the TARDIS design, especially the interior, more specifically, obviously the outside is still the same as it's always been. Really, it's had a few changes here and there through the decades, but the interior, it's a lot more streamlined. So in the first Doctor Who movie, it was a lot more sort of mad scientist, crazy, chaotic. There was wires everywhere. There was weird random levers. There was bits of here where he was doing chemistry and science and that sort of thing. In this one, it's a lot more. You don't get to see it a lot. You only really see it a little bit in the beginning and a little bit to the end. But it's a lot more streamlined. It has a center console. It actually kind of looks like the sort of TV show version of a console, which kind of, again, I don't know this for sure, but you could imagine at this point, the sort of Doctor and Susan have been on a lot more adventures, and the Doctor has had time to not only perfect the TARDIS and perfect the console room, but also has had time to really sort of understand a lot more how the shit works. Not saying he didn't know, but like that was one of the big things in the first movie, was the fact of he knew how, obviously he knew how it worked. He just that was his first time testing it out, first time trying it. So now he's kind of a more seasoned Doctor, as you could say. And I think is a lot more streamlined. So I like that. I still kind of like the chaotic mad scientist look of the first one, organized chaos, but I can understand why they streamlined it a lot more. Sort of it's less chaotic. One other small little thing that I noticed, which isn't is more like a scene. It's not like a bit of trivia or anything like that. But there's this one scene where the Doctor and Tom walk towards the Thames as they're looking for Susan and Lois, and as they get there, they turn around and there's Robomen around them, and then there's this like a wide shot from behind the Doctor and Tom, and a Dalek just comes up out the Thames, and he's like, "You are under arrest. Take them to the ship." And it's just a fantastic scene where this Dalek you can just see the little eye stalk come out the water first, and then the small dome top and the lights on the top, and then the whole body just starts to emerge, and it's just a really scary, creepy sort of scene, because the Daleks, yes, they look silly, they look a bit funny, but they are imposing. They are quite scary. It's the reason why they've lasted so much in sort of the history is because of how iconic they look and how imposing and frightful they can be when used properly. And this is one of them scenes of like, this is a very terrifying moment. So I just wanted to mention that because it's one of those that really sort of stuck with me as I was watching it. I thought it was quite impressive with that. As for the characters, special mentions, obviously Peter Cushing and Susan, Roberta Tove do a fantastic job. I have a bit of trivia here that I found while doing my research, right? So apparently, Peter Cushing supposedly only agreed to do this film if Roberta Tove returned as his granddaughter alongside him, having built up a rapport on the previous movie, which is very much in Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing, very much not just within Peter Cushing, but also very much a Doctor thing to do. And also the fact of, like I said, if you listen to my review of the first movie, one of my favourite things of that film was how well of a companion Susan is to Peter Cushing's Doctor. You know, how well they are together. And you can tell here that they must have gone on so many more adventures that we didn't get to see by the time this movie starts, because they're a lot more tight knit groups. That she's a lot better companion to him, even though they don't get spend a lot of time together. You can tell that she's gotten a bit older, he's gotten a bit older, and obviously they've spent a lot more time together, and they just work so well together. Not just in acting, just again is a believable grandfather, granddaughter, and sort of doctor and companion. They just work so well together. Again, once again, they both do a stand-up job. Peter Cushing's Doctor is really special, and I just wish we had more of him. You know, he's a fun, curious Doctor. You know, who thinks first and acts later. Um, you know, near the end, and what I love about his Doctor is that near the end of that, he has his own classic Doctor smart speech moment. We all know it if you're a Doctor Who fan. That moment in Who where it's like he's back up against the wall. You think that's it, that he's lost, he's not going to do it. And like Columbo, he comes out of nowhere and he's like, well, actually, now you mention it. And then he has that really clever, smart speech where he just sort of, sometimes he's just being clever for clever's sake and he's trying to buy time and try to be clever and be like, oh, X, Y, and Z. Oh, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you shouldn't do that. Why? You know, his companions are in the background, solving something out. You know, kind of blow up a space station or something. Or he actually is being quite clever, and he is actually purveying all the chips down. He's like, look, this is what's happening here. This is what's happening there. Like those very smart, clever moments the Doctor has. And I love that. And I'm glad that Peter Cushing got one of those moments to really sort of show what his Doctor is, who his Doctor is, and what his Doctor is capable of, but the kind of Doctor he is. And I kind of just wish why he got more time, because like I said, he's very curious, he's very fun, he's very smart, he's very interesting. He, yeah, you know, Peter Cushing, he's just an incredible actor. There's not really much more you can say. Instead of Peter Cushing, he is and was a credible actor. He was an incredible Doctor, and it's a shame, again, we just didn't get more of him. Because I would love more. I don't know if Big Finish has done more Peter Cushing sort of style Doctor adventures. If they have, I would love to listen to them. I know it probably wouldn't be Peter Cushing doing the voice, but even so, I would happily listen to them because I just want to know more adventures of this Doctor. I want to know what else this Doctor is doing, where this Doctor is going, and what adventures it went on after this film, and what adventures he was on before this film. I just want to spend more time with him because I just really enjoy the rapport he has of how he just carries himself and how he dresses, how he looks, and how he is as a Doctor. You can tell that he's really sort of come into himself as a Doctor, as a time traveler from the first movie to this one. There is a lot of sort of quick sort of development of like, I've been in a lot of adventures, you haven't sadly seen them, but I am more refined at this point now, which I really, really love. Also, Bernard Cribbins, you know, what a legend. He is just a legend. His character Tom is far better than Ian. Another thing that I mentioned a lot in my review of the first movie was that I just didn't like Ian. You know, all he did was moan. Was like, oh, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. We shouldn't be here. Let's go back to the TARDIS. And it's like, for God's sake, Ian, right? You're on an alien planet. Try to enjoy yourself. You know what I mean? Like, yes, you might wanted to come and you came here by accident, but you're here now. You know, at least explore a bit, try to have a bit of fun. Whereas Tom, like this movie begins where Tom, you know, he's a copper. He is just walking the strips, pulling the streets. He's looking in the shop window. Next thing you know, there's a guy comes behind him, bashes him on the head, really dazes and confuses him. Runs back to the car. There's a bank robbery. Bank blows up. Guys get away. He gets up and he's like, oh no, all a bit dazed and confused. He sees a public police box because obviously back in the past, in the 60s, the police used to have public call boxes, which was basically what the TARDIS is, right? A phone box that the police would go in and they could keep their sandwiches in, they could keep their truncheons and that sort of thing. But there was always a phone in there you opened and it would give you a direct line so you could call for reinforcements, right? This was years before walkie-talkies and things like that. So he runs to it, he goes in, he sees the Doctor, they all look at him confused, he passes out, and when he wakes up, the Doctor has taken him to the year 2150. And you would think, oh, maybe in that situation he'd wake up, panicked, where am I, what am I doing here? But he doesn't. He's just like, all right then, you know, maybe that guy hit me a bit harder than I thought. And then he's in the future, and like where Ian was panicking, freaking out, he's just like, oh, okay. let's just get on with it, shall we? He just joins in on the adventure, really gets in, really gets stuck in, doesn't really question anything, doesn't question anything that the Doctor's doing, what Susan's doing, Lois, nothing like that. Doesn't question anything, and then at the end of the day, he helps the Doctor to save the day. Simply brilliant. And then at the end of it, he goes back. The Doctor takes him back in time before he gets knocked out, which again doesn't really make sense because you can't take him back to that time period because that time period has already happened, which means there'd be two Toms there. But again, I'm getting really too technical for even though it's a Doctor Who and they deal with time travel. I'm being too technical for a '60s time travel movie, right? It just makes sense that he goes back and he's the only Tom there. It just makes sense for it what it is, but obviously logically, sci-fi and time travel fans, we know that wouldn't make sense. But I'm gonna let it slide because it's Bernard Cribbins and Peter Cushing, and I love this movie, so I'm gonna let that slide. But they send him back a couple of minutes before the bank robbery. He goes in, knocks the driver out, knocks the two guys out, and drives them away down to the police station. The end. Perfect. Bernard Cribbins, incredible companion. Again, you could kind of tell as he was leaving that there was probably a moment with him where he kept looking back of like, maybe I should go back and like go on a few more adventures. Because I was sitting there going, go on, go back in the TARDIS, go do some more adventures with the Doctor. You're a great companion, go and do it. But he doesn't. He goes and he saves the day once again as sort of the legend that Bernard Cribbins was. And yeah, it's a great end to a quite fun rip riding sort of movie. My overall thoughts is that, as you can tell, I loved it. It's it's 60s, it's campy, it's Doctor Who, it's science, it's sci-fi, and it's very groovy and epic and grand. But at the heart of it, it's a pretty decent, good story. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but like, I haven't watched the original, the TV show version, so I didn't know what was happening. So that I asked many questions of like, well, why have the Daleks invaded Earth? How do they manage to invade Earth? What are they trying to do there? And sort of like, again, like Columbo, you kind of follow the Doctor along as he tries to figure it out himself. And when you finally figure it out, I'm like, oh, that's quite clever. That's quite clever of the Daleks, to be honest. That's a quite clever plot. That's quite clever. Even for like sort of six, and it's very classic Who as well. It doesn't have to be big and epic and complex as modern Doctor Who, but for classic Doctor Who, it makes sense. Actually, I want to mention what the whole point is, but I don't want to spoil it for anybody. But it's quite clever for classic Doctor Who, to be honest, and I quite like it. So for that, I love that, and again, it's very grand. It's very huge and warlike, and there's explosions and like, I know I keep saying the word like, but it is very epic. It is. It's a very epic adventure. It's grand. It goes from the first movie, takes what the first movie did, and just kind of flips it on its head by still doing Doctor Who, but just gets on with the adventure. Like, you already know who the Doctor is. You already know who the Doctor and Susan, and well, you just meet Lois here, but the point is, like, you already know these companions sort of. You're in the future. Daleks invaded. Adventure starts, and it just gets right into it, and for that I quite love it. For that, also, it has an ending. This movie has an ending. One of the small little nitpicks I had about the last movie was it didn't really have an ending. It kind of just they saved the day. They go into the TARDIS. Ian presses the controls to go back home. He opens the doors. Roman legionnaires are running out the door. He then starts to have a panic of, oh no, help me! Are you not going to do anything? And then that's it. It just ends, and I was like, what? Excuse me? Why? Shouldn't have ended there. Whereas this one actually has an ending. Bernard Cribbins saves the day. As he drives away, he waves to the Doctor, Susan and Lois, and they wave back to him. And then it fades to black and credits roll. And that I didn't need the Doctor to go into the TARDIS or anything like that. Like, it works very well. It ends how it begins, really, just kind of alternate and changes a bit. And I like that. So yeah, I can recommend this highly. It's a rip-roaring ride. It's epic. It's grand. There's a lot more fast-paced. It's not as slower. So if you listen to my first review and you was like, oh, it's a bit too slow for me, then this would be perfect for you. You do get a lot more Daleks, you get a lot more people, there are a lot more characters in this as well. You don't just get the Doctor and his companions. There are, you have the humans that has survived, and you have sort of the rebellion, and you have sort of the Robo-Men, the humans that have been turned into these sort of robotic sort of soldiers. You have the miners near the end and things like that. So you get a big band of different characters, and each one of them is somewhat rememberable. Not in, I don't mean that in a bad way, but each one sort of like puts in a good thing where it's like, oh, you actually care about these people. You care about the humans. You care about the people in the resistance. You care about the miners. You care about the people who are still surviving in the cities and in the countryside and that sort of thing. So you understand how people sort of have to, the things people do to live, without really going into spoilers. So I really enjoyed this one. I really did. And I can feel myself sort of rambling here and just repeating myself. I'm just really excited. This kind of happens when I get excited. I just repeat myself and I stutter, so I do apologise for that. But it's really good film. Really, really good. It's just so good. So I'm going to end it there because I'm just going to keep repeating myself. If you haven't seen this one, check it out. And if you haven't listened to my review of the first movie, go check that one out as well. I had a lot of fun, and I'm going to end it here by saying I just wish there was more Peter Cushing films. I really do. I know these movies didn't do very well financially and critically, but if they did, I would have just loved to see more of his adventures. I just really love his transition of the Doctor, and that's sort of the end of that. As for everything else, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed my ramblings on of not just Doctor Who, but this movie. If you liked what you heard, you can find the Nerdstalgic podcast anywhere and everywhere that you can find podcasts. The only place you won't find me is on Apple Podcasts. I'm also on Audible. You can find me on YouTube. If you're currently listening to me on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to find me on YouTube, just type in the Nerdstalgic podcast and you'll find me there. Also, if you listen to this on Spotify, don't forget to give me a star rating of 1 to 5 stars. 5 stars, best thing you heard in your life. 1 star, you completely think, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about, this movie's trash. Whatever you feel like is fair. 1 to 5 stars helps me out immensely. And so you have been listening to the Nerdstalgic podcast. I have been your host, Luke the Human. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, or evening, or night, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.